Less than 2 months into his term of office, Donald Trump has taken our country and its judicial system into constitutional crisis. Last Friday, Trump quietly signed one of his many executive orders, this one invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. That's the law that was used by the U.S. government to hold Japanese American citizens in detention camps during World War II. The act permits the detention and expulsion of citizens from nations or countries at war with the United States. It's only been used during wars, and only 3 times in American history: the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. Now, my lean to the left colleague, Mark M. Bello, just wrote a masterful blog about this development that was published on both his Substack and our Lean to the Left blog site. This action by Trump is just one of what he's doing to solidify his position as dictator of the United States. We're going to talk about that today. Now, first, a little bit about Mark, just to remind you guys. Mark's an attorney, civil justice advocate, award-winning author of the Zachary Blake legal thriller series, who draws upon 42 years of courtroom experience and a passion for justice. He writes captivating, ripped-from-the-headlines novels and hard-hitting commentaries on controversies in the news. In his novels, Mark takes readers into courtroom fights to protect our most precious rights and gives us a front-row glimpse into what victims face when standing up for justice. In his books, articles, and blogs, Bello calls out abuses of power, and his voice is needed now more than ever. You can learn more at markmbello.com. Mark, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it, my friend.
No problem, Bob. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
You're looking as handsome and young as ever.
Yeah, I just turned 82 a couple months ago.
I understand. I'm going to be 73 next month.
Oh, you're just a baby, man. Listen, let's talk a little bit about what's happening into our country today with Donald Trump and his unelected sidekick, Elon Musk, attempting to dismantle the federal government and put themselves in a position of unchallenged power. What are your thoughts about all of that, Mark?
It's the perfect storm of shit, if you want my legal opinion. You've got
That's your legal opinion, huh?
yes. You've got the unfortunate decision by the Supreme Court before Trump even became president, granting a president immunity for all actions he takes while in office.
Yeah.
It didn't separate whether what he was doing is criminal or illegal or legal or fair or unfair. It just said all actions. And you couple that with his behavior in office so far and a spineless Republican-controlled Congress. And I'm not picking on Republicans. I'm picking on spineless people.
Yeah.
If a Democrat acted like this, Republicans would be going crazy. Just as because a Republican is acting like this, Democrats are going crazy. What I'd love to see in America is you simply represent your constituents and behave accordingly when you see criminal behavior or unethical behavior. And that's what he's engaging in. Unfortunately, we've lost our system of checks and balances. Think about this. And it's what I wrote about that you read in your intro. Tries to deport. Actually, he didn't try. He successfully deported a bunch of undocumented immigrants from El Salvador. Puts them on a plane and sends them back. Before he does that, a judge on Saturday calls an emergency hearing, conducts the hearing, and issues a temporary restraining order telling him you can't do that without due process. And he orders that the planes don't leave the ground, or if they're in the air, turn around.
Right.
That was the order. The Trump administration, I assume with full knowledge of Donald Trump, after all, it is called the Trump administration, defies the order. Now, in ordinary times, that defiance would have some teeth. It would have some penalty. A judge would have some power. And I refer to contempt powers in the blog I wrote for you, and they still exist. But if you look at what the Supreme Court did and you combine it with what Trump did, where's the power of the judge to enforce the order against Trump? All Trump has to do is say, I'm immune. I committed these acts while I was acting as president.
Yep.
And he becomes more like a dictator rather than a constitutional president. And that's the crux of the problem.
Yeah. So tell me why his defiance of these court orders constitutes a serious constitutional crisis.
Because we have three branches of government in this country, and they're supposed to act as checks and balances to each other. And unfortunately, two of the branches, one voluntarily and the other because they no longer have any power, are not functioning.
Yeah.
The judicial branch can enforce its order against a president who's immune from enforcement. The Congress, which is really the only current means to get him under control, won't do because they're afraid to be primaried. They're more worried about their jobs than they are about their constituents.
With him controlling the Justice Department with his Pam Bondi as Attorney General, there was no law enforcement component to attack this, correct?
You're right. That is the other so-called independent
Yeah.
component to this. The typical Justice Department, you've heard in a lot of news reports, Trump's assumption back in his first term, getting angry at Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
And getting angry at Jeff Sessions' successors because he wasn't acting as Trump's Attorney General. He was acting as the people's Attorney General.
Right.
And Sessions got into a lot of trouble for that with Trump. Sessions was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Justice Department is supposed to be an independent watchdog. And by the way, you speak of Bondi. One of the things that Trump and Bondi have done is they've dismantled within the Justice Department all of the mechanisms that are designed to control or stop corruption.
Yeah.
He fired inspectors general. He terminated departments and agencies within the Justice Department that serve the function of preventing corruption, both nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
So now foreign actors can misbehave, and the emperor has no teeth.
This is incredible.
I don't think that's the correct phrase, but I think it's the emperor has no clothes, but the law has no teeth as it applies to the Trump administration.
Okay. Now, Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Roberts, issued a statement this week opposing those calls to remove judges who rule against Trump's policies. Those calls have come from a bunch of MAGA Republicans in Congress and elsewhere. And Justice said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And that was an unusual step to be taken by him. Actually, Roberts is part of the reason why Trump is even in power today. What are your thoughts about that?
I told you privately, and I'll tell you publicly, it's too little too late.
Yep.
He's principally responsible for Trump having the power. I don't think necessarily he's the reason Trump's president, although there's some argument to be made for that. I think he's certainly the reason Trump has immunity.
Mm-hmm.
He signed on to that decision. And it's the immunity decision that gives Trump this unprecedented, unbridled power to ignore court orders,
mm-hmm.
to ignore due process, to ignore the law, to basically act like a criminal and there are no consequences for it. The only consequence is impeachment. And we have a Congress that I don't know what he has to do to get them to commence impeachment proceedings, but that's the only current way to stop him,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. We've got a situation where the Republicans control Congress. There's no way that there would be votes to impeach this guy no matter what he did, I don't think.
Even if they didn't control Congress, when the Democrats controlled Congress, the amount of votes you need,
Yeah.
2/3,
Yeah.
prevents impeachment from becoming a serious tool. By the way, I didn't completely answer your previous question.
I'll finish then.
The impeachment of the judge as called for by Trump and what Roberts was criticizing.
Mm.
Roberts is right and wrong at the same time. Of course, they can call for impeachment. Impeachment is a congressional action, not a judicial action. So if Congress wants to impeach the judge that issued the order calling back the planes, they can certainly try to do, just like the Democrats don't have the votes to impeach Trump, the Republicans don't have the votes to impeach this judge.
Mm-hmm.
What Roberts is criticizing is essentially, if you think about it, he didn't say this, but this is what he's criticizing, is his lawlessness, his willingness to lash out and say judges are bad people and officials who disagree with him are bad people and bad things should happen to them because they disagree with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Judge Roberts doing this is that he created the monster.
Yeah.
He's the Chief Justice of the United States that issued the immunity decision. And
Okay.
I lay the blame there
Okay.
on a pox on all their houses.
Okay. That's a good point. Now, today, U.S. District Judge Theodore D. Chung issued a preliminary injunction blocking Musk and Doge from taking further actions to dismantle USAID. What do you think the implications of that action are?
I'm afraid to say that, again, what if Trump does the same thing
Yeah.
and continues to dismantle USAID?
Yep. Yep.
What's to stop him from doing that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the situation is any different with that injunction as with the other. Now,
Oh,
what Trump response to that was, the judge is wrong, we're going to appeal.
yeah.
That's actually the correct response. The judge is wrong, we're going to appeal. That's what he should have done with the planes. But he went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah. You know what? This has happened with other federal judges have ordered reinstatement of thousands of fired federal workers. So what will happen if Trump refuses to comply with those orders? Same thing, right?
That's my point. He doesn't have any, there's no reason. If he really wants to do it, at least as I understand the situation currently,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some other lawyer can hop on and feel differently. But let's say he goes ahead and fires every employee he wants to fire,
Right.
and they all file lawsuits and grievances and what have you.
Mm.
They get every judge in America to issue a TRO, and he ignores them all.
What's a DRO?
Temporary restraining order.
Oh, okay. Temporary restraint.
Where's the teeth? He does it anyway. How does the judge enforce the order? Now,
Okay.
maybe he throws Pam Bondi in prison. I don't know. Maybe he throws Marco Rubio in prison. He can't touch Donald Trump because Donald Trump has immunity. And that's my problem. I don't see where if Trump wants to defy, a judge can prevent him, except with a contempt order. And even that, I think he can say, take the scenario. Trump says, the judge is wrong. I'm right. I'm doing what I think is in the best interest of the country as part of the exercise of my presidential powers. And I'm going ahead with this anyway.
Yeah. During the run up to the election, Democrats and Trump opponents warned continuously that if he was sent back to the White House, that this country would be in danger of falling into a dictatorship.
He said it himself.
Yeah, he did. Do you think we are really heading towards a full blown Trump dictatorship?
It depends on how you define. Is he going to run America the way Putin runs Russia? I don't see a whole lot of evidence of that. And there's still a Congress, even though this one so far is spineless, there's still a Congress to prevent that. That is the only functioning non-executive branch of government that can control him. The judiciary can't, because the Supreme Court prevents it from doing so.
You
So
know
it's
what, Mark?
got to be Congress.
It struck me as I watched his appointments to people in cabinet positions and sub cabinet positions, most of whom, in my opinion, for what that's worth, is most of whom are weak, unqualified people. I don't know, maybe Rubio is qualified technically to be Secretary of State.
Well, his hands are too small.
What'd you say?
His hands are too small.
His hands are too small. The thing is that this is happening, and it seems to me that he deliberately put people in those positions that he could control. It was his way of establishing his own supreme authority. Am I wrong in thinking that?
You're not wrong. But again, he promised to do that. He wasn't going to allow himself to be marginalized the way he was in his first term.
Yeah.
There were these smarter people in the room, if you will, in his first administration that kept him somewhat under control.
Right.
And he promised that he would appoint people, like-minded people, that would bend the knee, and that's what he did. And
Yeah.
he won the election. He has a right to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sad.
It's our fault, not
Well,
really
I
his.
don't know.
I mean,
I
he's
won't
doing
take any
exactly what he
blame. I didn't
promised.
vote for the son of a bitch.
I know. We the people.
Yeah. All right. So, what's your overall assessment? What's your overall
I
assessment
didn't vote for the son of a bitch either, by the way.
I was going to ask you for your overall assessment of where we are today, but I think you've already pretty much explained what you think. Tell me this.
It's an awful situation. It really is.
Yeah. Tell me this. First of all, what do you think we, the people, can do or should do now? There's no election for a couple of years.
Some of it is being done. There's people are calling for town halls. They're protesting, like them to protest a little less violently,
Mm-hmm.
but they're protesting Tesla dealerships and other businesses owned by Elon Musk. They're protesting in front of the White House. They're going to town hall meetings and holding their representatives accountable and making them very uncomfortable. That's you exercise your right as a citizen for a more perfect union, and that's what we have to do. You and I are children of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I recall vividly as a young man, all the protests during the Johnson administration and during the Nixon administration
Mm-hmm.
that ended the Vietnam War. And Trump's only around for 4 more years, 3 years and 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
I should know days, minutes, and hours, but
Yeah, that's right. I think I'll start a clock or something.
yeah, really.
Yeah.
But that's the way that people get things done. The
Yeah.
other thing I think they should do is make very clear that if these congressional leaders or congressional cowards don't get their shit together and start preventing some of this stuff, that in less than 2 years, they're going to be out of a job, just like we are.
Yeah. What do you think should happen to some of the Democrats? I was really disappointed in Schumer and his actions.
Well,
Uh,
he was between a rock and a hard place. You have a false choice of approving the budget or letting the budget be, or putting the budget in the hands of Musk and Trump. And I think he basically exercised the only choice he could.
yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. I feel like the Democrats need to find a whole new group of leaders. I'm tired of Schumer. I'm tired of the same old people all the time doing the same old thing and coming up with the same old answers.
I don't think any of this is same old, though. That's the problem. I think you're right in the sense that they don't seem to have an answer
Yeah.
for Trumpism.
Hmm.
But if you take America issue by issue and you say, on which side would you rather be?
Hmm.
And you describe an issue to a citizen, I would bet you, and I'm not saying there aren't any, I'm not even talking about liberal, moderate, conservative.
Hmm.
I'm talking about citizens of all political leanings.
Okay.
If you went issue by issue and said, would you rather do this or that?
Hmm.
The moderate left side of that issue would be the one people prefer. Maybe moderate right a little bit,
Hmm.
but it wouldn't be this outrageous, lawless, I'm the king approach from Donald Trump.
Right.
Now, are there people that love this? Yes. I had a meeting the other day. We have in the residence in Florida where I live, we have a weekly discussion group, political discussion group on
Okay.
Thursday afternoon.
Okay.
And the leader of the group, we have, I think, 4 or 5 Democrats, 2 conservatives, and 2 Trumpies.
Okay.
So the conservatives are, I would say, moderate right.
Okay.
And the leader invites this guy to appear. And the first question he asked was, so how's the first 2 months of the Trump administration going for you?
Hmm.
And he expected the guy to say, terrible.
Yeah.
And the guy said, this guy started applauding and he said, I love it.
Oh shit, really?
And I got a little hostile and I said, what part of it do you love?
Yeah.
And he said, we have the best immigration controls on illegals that we've had in a long time. And I said, there are no illegals. If you're talking about the undocumented, I don't know that I don't necessarily agree that preventing people from coming into the country without documentation is a bad thing. But treating people the way they're doing is.
Hmm.
This is America.
Yeah.
And then he said tariffs. And I said, tariffs? I don't know a Republican who likes tariffs. He thinks that tariffs are a good thing. Bob, and I think you know this because you live in South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are people who think what's going on is wonderful.
Oh yeah. I'm involved in a group as well. It's not
Bizarre.
one that meets, but it's one that's online. And I just cannot believe how people are applauding what this guy's doing to our country. It's just hard to believe that they are accepting the fact that they're allowing this guy, any person, to have all this uncontrolled power that he has taken on now. And as
And
you say, it's the Supreme Court's fault that
yep.
they permitted this with that ruling that you referred to.
The level of power he has
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
their fault. Yes.
Yeah. All right, Mark. Now I have one final question for you. You want to know what that is?
Why am I so good looking?
Do you see the makings of a new political thriller in all of this?
I already wrote Betrayal of Justice, which was based on the 2016 Trump. And it's a really timeless, considering that Trump is still around,
Yeah.
it's really a timeless novel.
Okay.
And it basically tells the story of a guy like that becoming president. And we've talked about this before, you and I, but I'm watching him run for office against Hillary, and I'm saying, my God, what if a guy like this really became president? So I took some of the things he was saying and doing, and I made them qualities of a new president.
Okay.
And lo and behold, he became president and started doing some of those things, like banning Muslims from the country and stuff like that.
Right.
So if people want to, my thoughts about what kind of a presidency looks like, I think this one, by the way, this one takes power to a level that equals the power I gave the president in betrayal of justice.
Okay.
So if for those people who are interested in Mark Bellow's opinion of what this looks like, I would suggest that they read Betrayal of Justice.
Okay. That's excellent. And I'm glad you brought that up. And I will put a link in the description of this for Betrayal of Justice so you guys can easily access it.
Before we go, you asked me something when we set this visit up about the Constitution. And I want to make clear for the people that a lot of people say a person who comes over to the border illegally, is the term they use, has no rights. I want the people to read the Constitution. They don't understand how wrong that is.
Okay.
The Constitution doesn't say all citizens are entitled to due process. The Constitution says all people in the United States are entitled to due process.
Okay.
Now, why is that important? Do you think if the founders intended only citizens to have a right to a hearing before they're deported or before they're put in prison? If they intended only citizens to have that right, don't you think they would have used that term? The Constitution uses the term people in the United States are entitled to equal protection under the 14th Amendment, 5th and 14th Amendment, not citizens, people.
Okay.
And that's why immigrants, whether they're undocumented or they become citizens, are entitled to due process before something like putting them on a plane and sending them back to their native country happens. That's what Trump didn't do. And hopefully, somehow, whether the Supreme Court has to reverse last year's decision, hopefully someone will hold him accountable for that.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, listen, thanks so much for coming on and doing this today. I appreciate it. No
My
end.
pleasure.
Yeah. And you guys check out Mark's books. By the way, that link that I'll put in the description, I'm pretty sure will be good for all of Mark's books. How many have you written altogether, Mark? I mean, in the betrayal series that you have.
The legal thrillers I've written 9.
9. Okay. That's incredible.
I've written 2 children's safety and social justice books.
Yeah.
One about bullying and one about distracted driving. They're pretty interesting.
Yeah.
In terms of educating a kid early about things he shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And I've written a couple of mystery and a cozy mystery and a legal romance novel that also features Zachary Blake, by the way. I threw him in as a mentor for the new character I created in this romance novel.
This guy's something else, man.
And a Jewish cookbook. Don't forget my cookbook.
A Jewish cookbook. All right. All right. Listen, my friend, thank you so much. And you guys watch Lean to the Left going forward, because Mark will be making some return visits every once in a while when we have something like this to talk about. Okay.
Bob misses me.
You know what? We've been doing this now for what? How long?
I can tell you because at the beginning of our meeting today, you said that I had 42 years experience, and I now have 48 years experience.
I was
So
42 years experience as an attorney, a practicing attorney.
But no, it's 48.
Oh, okay.
You need to update that bio.
Oh, I got to change the file. All right.
But what that says is
Yeah.
that apparently we've been together 6 years.
All right. Incredible. Time flies when you're having fun.
I tell you, thanks.
Hey guys, I'm Bob Gatty, founder and host of Lean to the Left. I'm excited to share our new book, Hijacked Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, co-authored with political analyst and professor C.J. Waldron. In Hijacked Nation, we delve into the unfolding story of America's political landscape through a series of essays from leantotheleft.net. We explore how Donald Trump's presidency has transformed American politics, challenging our values and institutions. Hijacked Nation isn't just a book, it's a call to action. It invites you to reflect on what it means to be American in a divided political landscape. Together we can reclaim our nation's greatness. So get your copy of Hijacked Nation today. Visit leantotheleft.net and click on the Books tab to learn more and to order.